A Diary of an African Husband, Episode 3, The Cooking Competition. Kunnel opened his diary, the third one in 2 years. Writing his daily experiences had become his only way to make sense of the strange life he led as an African husband. Today's entry, he knew, would top the list of ridiculous events in his marriage to Ada. He dipped his pen in ink and began. Dear Diary, today I learned that in my house, the kitchen is not just for cooking, it's apparently a battlefield. And the only weapon? Ego. It all started in the morning when Ada woke up late. Kunnel, lounging on the couch in his green and yellow ankara, couldn't resist teasing her. Madam of the house, is this how your ancestors used to wake up after the sun? He quipped, smirking. Ada, still groggy, gave him a side eye and replied, If you think running a home is easy, why don't you try cooking today? Let's see if you even know how to boil water without setting the house on fire. Kunnel laughed. Cook? Me? Please, Ada. I've cooked before. Back in my university days, people used to line up for my jollof rice. That was the wrong thing to say. Ada raised an eyebrow. Oh really? Then let's settle this once and for all, a cooking competition. You versus me. Winner gets to brag for life. Before Kunnel could protest, Ada had already announced the challenge to TT, who was now bouncing with excitement in her green and yellow dress. Daddy versus Mommy. This will be fun. Kunnel scratched his head. He hadn't touched a stove in years. But there was no backing out now. Ada was already tying her apron, her confidence radiating through the house. Kunnel's strategy was simple, go big or go home. He decided to make jollof rice, the one dish he vaguely remembered cooking. But as soon as he entered the kitchen, the problems began. First, he couldn't find the rice. Ada, where's the rice? He shouted. Ada, chopping vegetables on the other side of the kitchen, smirked. If you don't know where rice is kept in your own house, you've already lost. Kunnel muttered under his breath, and opened every cupboard until he found it. Then came the onions. He held one up, looking confused. Do I peel it first or just chop it like this? TT giggled from the doorway. Daddy, you don't know how to peel onions? Kunnel shooed her away. This is a serious competition, young lady. No distractions. Meanwhile, Ada was already frying her perfectly seasoned chicken, the aroma wafting through the air. Kunnel tried to ignore it, focusing instead on his pot of rice, which was beginning to boil over. Kunnel, your rice is spilling. Ada called out sweetly, pretending to be helpful. Kunnel grabbed the lid and burned his fingers in the process. Ah! Who invented stoves? This thing is too hot. Despite the chaos, Kunnel's jollof rice was finally coming together. Or so he thought. He tasted a spoonful and winced. It was bland. He added salt. Still bland. He added more pepper. Now it was too spicy. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. On Ada's side, everything was going smoothly. Her green and yellow apron remained spotless as she plated her dish, grilled chicken with sautéed vegetables and fried plantains. It looked like something out of a cooking magazine. Kunnel looked at his pot of jollof rice, now resembling porridge. He sighed but refused to give up. He added a garnish of chopped tomatoes on top, hoping it would make it look more appetizing. Finally, it was time for the tasting. TT, the self-appointed judge, sat at the dining table, her face glowing with anticipation. Let me taste Mommy's food first, she announced. Kunnel watched as TT took a bite of Ada's chicken and closed her eyes in delight. So good. When it was Kunnel's turn, he placed his jollof rice in front of her with a flourish. TT hesitated before taking a bite. Her expression immediately changed. Daddy, this is, interesting. Interesting how? Kunnel asked nervously. Interesting like spicy porridge, TT replied innocently, making Ada burst into laughter. Kunnel slumped in his chair, defeated. This competition was rigged from the start, he mumbled. Ada patted his shoulder. Don't worry, Kunnel. At least you tried. Maybe next time, we'll compete in something you're actually good at, like watching TV. Kunnel glared at her, but couldn't help smiling. As Ada and TT cleaned up the kitchen, he returned to his diary. Dear Diary, today I learned 2 things. 1. My wife is an excellent cook. And 2. I will never challenge her in the kitchen again. But next time, I'll make sure the competition is about something I can actually win, like eating the food. Until tomorrow, your defeated but still hopeful friend, Kunnel. And with that, Kunnel closed his diary, already bracing himself for whatever adventure tomorrow would bring.